Study finds children with autism respond well to puppets. A new study by researchers at the Yale Child Study Center demonstrates that puppets can attract and hold attention of children with autism spectrum disorder, raising the potential for developing more engaging therapies that strengthen social engagement and facilitate learning. I'm Steven from Tostemac, and welcome back to the Tostemac Autism News, where we cover the latest news involving autism. But before we get started with that though, I want to thank you guys so much for giving me the much needed break I needed for the past 2 weeks. And surprisingly enough, this has never happened before. We have not lost a single subscriber since the start of the break, which is actually new for me because every time I took a week off or took a little break, I was always worried about how many subscribers I would lose because I didn't post a video that day. But we didn't drop any. In fact, we actually gained a few subscribers. So I have to say thank you so much. But enough about that. Let's get back to the article. Today's article takes us to the Yale Child Study Center, where researchers are trying to see if they can include puppets into therapy sessions for autistic children to see if that can strengthen their social skills and learning abilities. We'll go over some of the article together. I'll leave a link in the description for the full article so you can read it on your own time. But let's go over some of this, shall we? The study published in the journal Autism Research is the first to test anecdotal evidence that children with ASD, like most youngsters, pay attention to puppets. In a series of experiments, the researchers examined the visual attention patterns of young children with ASD along with a control group of typically developing children, in response to a video depicting a lively interaction between Violet, a brightly colored puppet, and a human counterpart. They found that the attention patterns of children with ASD were similar to those of children in the control group when Violet spoke, with both sets of children spending a similar proportion of time watching her face and exhibiting a strong preference for the talking puppet over the listening person. Children with autism are less likely to attend to and to engage emotionally with their social partners, which limits their exposure to a host of important learning opportunities and experiences. In the present study, we found that while children with autism paid less attention than typically developing peers when an interactive partner was human, their attention was largely typical when the interactive partner was Violet, the puppet, said study co-author Katarzyna Chawarska. If I mispronounce that name, I deeply apologize. The Emily Fraser Bede Professor of Child Psychiatry at Yale School of Medicine and Director of the National Institutes of Health Autism Center of Excellence at the Yale Child Study Center. Our findings highlight the attentional and effective advantages of puppets, which hopefully can be harnessed to augment the therapeutic efforts in children with ASD. The researchers created the experiment in collaboration with Cheryl Henson, 84BA, who is a daughter of celebrated puppeteer Jim Henson and president of the Jim Henson Foundation. For many years, I've observed how puppets can engage children with ASD in meaningful ways, often establishing an uncommonly emotional connection, said Henson, who was a puppet builder on The Muppet Show and worked with Sesame Street in the 1990s, among other productions. I was thrilled when the Yale Child Study Center expressed interest in conducting the first ever clinical research exploring how puppets are seen by kids with ASD. The findings lend scholarly weight to our anecdotal experiences and suggest that puppets could be a powerful tool to help children with ASD improve their social engagement, which is very exciting. So that's all we're going to cover for this article. Again, you can read the full article in the description down below. But what are my thoughts about it? Honestly, when I read this article, while it is good, it kind of makes me think, yes, the sky is blue and the water is wet. I mean, this isn't really anything new. This is a practice that's been going on for decades. The cases in point, as mentioned in this article, Sesame Street and the Muppets. But I just want to put out there right now, ideally I'm talking about the Muppets that were around maybe the late 80s, around the 90s, around that time. Go any further than that, any earlier than that, it leads to some pretty weird stuff. Trust me, you don't want to know. Just want to put that out there. So, this really isn't surprising to me at all. Why is that? When you look at a puppet from Sesame Street and the Muppets, you often think of these brightly colored characters with so many different features. They could either be bright colors, dark colors. There's also the texture of the fur or the skin they have. There's patterns on the outfits that they're wearing. But most of all, in my opinion, is the face. The facial expressions on a puppet is far more exaggerated than that of a human's. Now I know it sounds silly coming from me because my facial expressions are often over exaggerated, but that took a long time to work on, dang it! So, since the facial expressions are more exaggerated in puppets, it's easier to tell what they're feeling at that time. Like Kermit the Frog, for example, you could tell all kinds of different emotions on that frog's face based on how the facial expression is. And the other thing about the face is the eyes. The eyes are usually much bigger on a puppet than it is on a human being. So with that in mind, it's much easier for an autistic child to focus on a puppet, be it either the big eyes rather than the normal human eyes, which are smaller than a ping pong ball. And if they can't focus on the eyes, they can focus on other parts of the puppet as well. Thus, a puppet is able to maintain the attention of an autistic child much better than that of a human. So, for this idea, I do like it. I feel like this could be beneficial in terms of like teaching autistic children social skills and improving their learning abilities, but they need to be careful. There is one big thing about this that concerns me. If the entire strategy of teaching autistic children social skills and improving their learning abilities revolves around this puppet, then what may happen is that the autistic child may become so attached to the puppet that they may not want to interact with other human beings at all, and you don't want that to happen. Ideally, you want to get the autistic child to the point where they can be comfortable with interacting with other human beings. That's how we learn and grow, it's how we make friends. So my recommendation in this, and again, I'm no expert in this, but my recommendation would be in the early parts of this strategy, start out with the puppet. Get the autistic child used to interacting with the puppet. Give it weeks, give it a couple months maybe, but later on down the road, you're gonna wanna add that human element into the mix. Now, what I mean by that is that you don't just take the puppet away and just have the human interaction from now on. You don't just drastically change course like that. What I mean is that over time you slowly start to add human interactions bit by bit. Sometime with the puppet, sometime with the human, sometime with the puppet, sometime with the humans. Maybe as time goes by, maybe add a little more human interaction into the mix. So you want to make a gradual transition from the puppet to the human, and hopefully gets to the point where the child will not need to talk to the puppet as much, that they can feel comfortable with interacting with other human beings. Maybe give them the choice later on if they want to talk to the puppet or if they want to talk to the human. But if they're able to choose at that point, if they can choose to talk with the human rather than the puppet more often, then good, you're making progress. But this is all just ideas. It's all up in the air right now. I would need to see more field work on this and more results from tests in order to see if this practice actually has some merit. But what do you think? Do you agree or do you disagree? What are your thoughts on using puppets as part of therapy sessions or learning sessions for autistic children? Let us know in the comments section below and let's have a conversation here. And on that note, it's time to end the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, consider commenting, and subscribing to Tostemac to stay up to date on our latest videos. Also, for future autism news videos, I think we're going to stick with this format for now. And we could use the green screen effect later on if you want me to. I'm open for critique. Just let me know in the comments section below to see if you prefer this style or if you want me to go back to the green screen. But thank you very much for watching, and until the next video, see you later.